Hi everyone, welcome. Today's class is an earring class. We're going to make brick stitch earrings on a beaded bead on a bead. So we're going to brick stitch onto a wooden bead and embellish it with some crystals and some seed beads. Today's class is a recorded class, so it will be available as a replay. So you can follow along. Today, I do highly recommend kind of watching the technique, and especially if you've never tried brick stitching on a bead before, catching the technique and then watching the replay for beading along when you can pause it, because definitely there's going to be some places where I've built samples ahead so that you don't have to sit and watch me stitch 20 beads around. So we're going to be using some fast forward mode on a couple of the steps so that I can get to everything and cram a lot of information into, a 1 hour class. So to get started, I'm going to show the project one more time. This is the finished earring. It's bead on a bead with seed beads, a 10mm wooden bead in the center, and some crystals. And I will show a close-up of all of the products, and then I will go ahead and show you guys each of the steps that we're going to cover. So I'm going to switch my camera to the other camera and let that come into focus. All right. And so here's the sample that you would have seen in the handout. Here's a current sample that I made just to kind of warm up and get the technique, program some motor memory for class. So, and I'm loving this colorway. It's the same bead in the center. And so I thought I would start with bead 1. I'll show you guys what those are. This comes with 2 strands. I pulled one of the strands off. But it's just from the strung bead wall, a 10mm bead. And there are a lot of options here. You don't have to use these beads, and you don't have to use a wooden bead. Wooden beads have the advantage of being light, so they were the ones that I focused on. But there's a lot of, let me get this one open here. This one comes as a set. And so I just used the 10mm off of this, and then I use these for another project. There's another option in the wooden bead strung wall. And then alternatively, I wanted to show, this is a really big one, but they have these pro packs, I guess they're kind of just like value packs. I'll show you guys the lid. It's a lot of wooden beads, but if you were going to make lots of these, like, to sell them at a craft fair or something, you'd have a long way to go through how much is that? It's a half a pound of beads. It's a lot. I also saw these, they sparked my interest. And then they have shells that you can use for some other projects, but lots of different colored wooden beads in here in different sizes. So today's project is done on a 10mm bead, but you're not stuck with the 10mm bead. You can use any size you'd like. So definitely after you get the technique down, you'll want to experiment and see, what you like the look of. Okay, so the rest of the materials, size 8 seed beads. So it's going to be row 1. And I'm going to use this color today because it's a nice bright color to see on the camera. Thread. For thread, I've been using the black color from a Nymo spool, but you could use any thread that you like. Not a super thick thread. I wouldn't recommend Wildfire for this. That's going to be too thick, but 4-pound Fireline would work. Another kind of thread that you like to use, a spool thread would be fine. Any kind of like size D-ish thread would be great. Okay, and then so for needles, I am using a size 12 needle today. Let me get a card of that out and show you guys what that one looks like. You could use 10s if you wanted to. The reason I recommended the 12s today is because you're going to make a few passes through some size 11 seed beads, and this just makes it a little easier. But I think definitely a 10 would also work. And of course, you'll need some scissors to cut your thread. And after step 1, you're going to need to bring in some size 11 seed beads. I'm using this yellow color today. And what we'll do with those is create another layer. And so that's the next step. And then after that, we're going to embellish it with some crystals and another row of 11s together. So what I'm using today came from the strand wall. It's sold in these packs where you get 4 of them. But the only one you need today is this strand. So the smaller strand. And that's what I'll be using today with more size 11 seed beads in a contrasting color. And that layer looks like this. And so we'll do a little pattern. And then last but not least, as you've seen from the samples, there's one more layer that goes all the way around in a different size 11 color. And for this sample, I'll probably go back to turquoise, I think. So I think that will look cute. All right, so I want to get started. I want to show you guys the steps again. That's toward the end. One before that. And actually in between these two is adding the loop. So there's the loop for the ear wires. And that reminds me, I didn't show you ear wires yet. So let me show you guys that. And the 8. So begin, next, next, and next. And just real quick, the ear wires. So you can use any ear wires that you want. I'm probably going to use, let's see, on one of the samples, I have these beautiful copper ones. And then on the pair I was wearing, I have some kind of antique brass color. They came from one of these packs. And I just learned today that you can get these in bulk as a pro pack. So if you want to make a bunch of these earrings for your business, I believe these are available in, you can buy like 12 of them at once and get a real discount on those. So that's a pretty good little note for the small business owners out there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start with this step. We will do this step twice because that's the one, once you have this, the rest of it is just plain old brick stitch and you'll have it down. So we'll cover that in depth and then we'll cover the embellishment on each of these samples here. Let me get these out of the way. Okay, so thread length. In the handout, it says to cut 40 inches of thread. And that actually is the perfect measure. Sometimes I tend to overestimate it or under. I've discovered that it really makes sense to do 40 for this one. I've made a couple here so far. So there we go. My little trick for measuring. Scissors set. And so with threading these kind, threading Nymo, which is what's on the thread that we're using today, which is this stuff. Threading it is easier to do if you just kind of moisten the end a little bit, and that will go through the needle a little bit better. There we go. And fold it over at about 7 inches or so, or whatever's comfortable for you. There you've got your threaded needle. I'm going to grab a bead. All right, and so you can either go through it with your needle or you can bring the tail through it, whichever is more comfortable for you. I'll probably use my needle. The inside of the wood can have, sometimes can be a little uneven, so it's easier with the needle, I think. And leave a little tail here for weaving in, but it doesn't have to be super long. And bring that over and tie a double knot with it. There's one. And then get that through there. There we go. There's 2. Okay, now we want to bring that knot inside the bead. And so you'll want to just kind of maneuver it over. So pulling on the tail now to kind of get it to where the knot's sitting just on the top there. And now I'm going to go through the bead. So I've got the needle here, going through the bead. And I'm going to pull the knot the rest of the way in. So it hides inside. And you'll be able to feel that. It's hard to show, but you'll feel the knot slide into the center. And you won't see it on the outside anymore. And then go ahead and tighten it, pulling the tail and the working thread. So the next thing you'll want to do after that is go back through. So this is the tail side here. My working thread's coming out on this side. Go back through so that you can put another pass over that thread. You'll need to help it. Just help it sit there. And it should look like that. Okay, and so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to try to get the thread to pass on this side now. And again, I'm going to help it, especially that first strand. I'm using my thumb to do that as I pull. And I'm looking at the top to see if I've got, you know, kind of the rings of Saturn around it. Should do. Pick up my needle here. And I wanted to also mention with the Nymo, with the thread that I'm using, if you're finding it that it's doing this coiling and that's distracting, you can wax it. You can even literally just go get a votive candle and run it through it. And that will help a little bit. Okay, so now I have my first two passes on this side. And my second two passes are on this side. Sorry, that didn't focus there. Sorry, guys. And everything is pretty tight. So those are thread bridges. We're actually going to build our stitches onto those thread bridges in just brick stitch pattern. I'm getting a bright light up there. Let me think. Let me go like this. Oops. There. That's a little better, right, guys? The sun is coming down in my window here. Okay. So I've got size 8 seed beads here. And I remember from when I was stitching around, this was my first side. It helps to kind of build your first row on the first side because this is the side where you've got the loose strand, the one that was just pulled through. But it doesn't actually matter too much. It will still work. You just might find it loosening a little. So I always try to work from the side that I built first, which was this side for me. And I picked up 2 size 8 seed beads. And I'm just needling under that thread, both of the strands here. So I'm going to bring the needle right underneath. And now come up just through the second size 8 seed bead that we added. And what you'll see happen is the beads just kind of sit. And that first bead that we picked up, it's going to hover over the top of the hole of the bead. And I'm just going to leave it there for now and go around. So now just pick up one size 8 bead and go under the 2 threads again. If your thread is really tight and you're having trouble getting your needle under there, it can actually help to put the needle a little bit underneath the last bead you added because it's really tight there and this bead is already pulling it up. So it's kind of helping do the work for you of getting the thread up off the bead a little bit. So as I go around, you'll see me doing that where I kind of go under the bead a little. And now I'm free. See, I can move around. And I know I haven't nicked my thread. If you do nick the thread a little bit, not the end of the world, but for more advanced techniques where you need this to move after you've stitched it, it can help that it is secured around both strands. But on this project, if that were to happen, don't sweat it. It would be okay. Let's see, I'm free here. I'm testing that it's free. Okay, and that is the hardest step. It's just going around, getting them in position, that first little building of the thread bridge. After you've got that, it's pretty much the same thing over and over again after that. But I'm going to finish to the bottom so you can see what happens when you reach the bottom. Okay, so here's the tail right here. I'm just keeping it out of the way. I'm just going to hold it with my thumb. Sorry about that. Okay, so our tail's over here. It's coming out of, this is the bottom of the bottom hole of the bead. We just added this last 8. Now we need to get over here. And you get a choice here depending on when you're building your brick stitch and the size of your 10mm bead or whatever bead you're using. If you've got enough of a gap here, go ahead and build this bead into this side. If this bead is overhanging the hole by any significant amount, then come over here and start the next bead on this side. But for me, on this one, what I'm seeing is a lot of space here. So I'm going to put it here. And then again, come up through that bead. All right. And so now I've got this, this is overhanging the hole exactly. I'm pushing it up a little bit. I want to do something here. I want to put my tail in there. The reason I want to do that is it's easier to do this now than later when it gets tight. Later when you've got layers of seeds built on top of it, it's going to be very, very tight up against that hole. So one little thing that I like to do is save myself that effort later and bring the tail up. Oh, sorry guys, I hit the camera there. How is the focus for you guys? Did I just wreck that? Seems okay. All right. Okay, so tails through that bead, added. Now I'm just picking up a new one and going under the thread bridge on the other side. And again, I'm just kind of testing to see if it moves. Looks good. And so yeah, this is what some people consider an advanced technique. I certainly considered it advanced when I first started. But it's just brick stitch, really, and with give yourself some patience. So the first time you try getting that bridge to sit on that bead, it's going to move around. But you'll end up getting it to work. And then when you do, all these possibilities emerge of any bead you own can become a foundation for a really beautiful stitch design. And there are some advanced techniques that you can grow into after you've mastered this one, or you can add more beads of different shapes and sizes for these just really, master level gorgeous pieces with different shaping to it. This is the foundation stitch for all of those. So it takes a little bit of time to get the hang of it, but it's really, really one of those in your toolbox skills that is worth developing, I think. Okay, so now I've gone all the way around and I need to join my circle. And so I'm going to go down through that first bead. And if you guys took the brick stitch classes with us before, where we brick stitched on components, you'll recognize this step. We're just joining the ring. So I went down through the first bead. And I'm going to go under the threads. And I'm on the other side of the, from the hole there. So it's going to pull it together. And then come up through that bead again. I'm going to show you guys on the side what that looks like. And if you have any kind of a little gap here, that's okay. It won't really hurt anything, but if it bugs you and you want to fix it, go back down through the other bead and under that thread bridge. And then I'm going to come up through that bead. And on these, there's a really organic, beautiful wooden beads. There's variation in size. It's minuscule until you start stitching on it, and then it becomes really noticeable. But I think that one looks good. All right. And so that is step one. And so from here, I could keep going, or how do you guys feel about wanting to see that one more time? I probably won't completely stitch around the next one, but I can show building the thread bridge again.
Hi, Danielle, it's Carmi.
Hey, Carmi.
I just wanted to check in. Sidebar is very good. Quite a few people got it, but it is much harder than working around a finding. So I think if you wouldn't mind, you should probably demonstrate this one again, because where you go next is definitely going to be easier.
Definitely, yeah. From here, it's actually super fun and easy. So let's do that. Let's do that step one more time. I'm just looking for where I put my thread. I sat it down somewhere. Oh, you guys, one of these days where I'm just putting things all over the place. Okay. I'm gonna open the new one. Here we go. Solved. Okay.
Danielle, do you ever stretch that thread?
This thread, for this design, you don't need to. Well, so if I had a design where I was worried about stretch, I wouldn't use this thread. I would use something like the Wildfire, or like, for example, a bracelet. But this doesn't stretch in this. You've got so many little tight passes. But that gives me a second to mention something I wanted to mention about thread in general, though. I'm using this color so you can see it, but on these ones, I used the other colors, and that's why I didn't go with other types of thread, because I wanted to match my colors. This has the gold on it. But yeah, it's a short answer is no, I don't stretch it, because on this design, it didn't really stretch at all for me. And I'm just eyeballing 40 inches here. And 40 inches is what you need if you were going to make this many passes around. If you were just making a few passes, you could work with less thread. But this is a 4-layer design, so it's got a lot of stuff going on. Okay, so 10mm bead, thread 40 inches cut on that, size 12 beading needle. And I'm gonna thread this. Oops. Sorry about that. There we go, that one worked. Okay, and folding it down, at about 7 inches or so. Whatever's comfortable for you will work fine. Okay, needle through the bead here. And tail long enough to weave in later. Tying a double knot. There's one. I'll do one more. Okay, and then sometimes I use the tail just to kind of move the knot a little closer to the hole of the bead, but you'll notice it'll stop right there, and it won't let you pull it any further. My knot is right there right now. I want it to go all the way in the bead. So I'm going to pick up the needle of the working side and go through the bead. And pull that through. And let this help me do that. And you'll feel the knot move into the bead. And once it's there, you can give it another tighten if you want to. And then the next step is just to start building your thread bridge around. So we've got one pass on the side already. I'm going to add another one. Go through. And see, I'm using my thumb and my finger to keep the thread in that general spot. And then I'm just kind of straighten it out. Not super critical if it lays on top of the other one or not. We can fix that as we go. So there's my first side. When I'm working, that first side always tends to be on my left, which is how I know when I start brick stitching to go that way. I mean, to go to the left. I was wondering if that made sense last time. But the reason I do that is I'm about to put two passes. I'm about to put two passes on this side. And then I'm going to start my brick stitch on that side, the first side we made. Okay, so I'm building my second side. All right, there's 1 and 2. Okay, and so this is probably what, when I was a beginner, I got this happening a lot, where you see they're going everywhere. I'm like, oh, come on, guys. So you can straighten them out though. And you might have to do it again while you're stitching, but it will still work. So there, I fixed that one. This is the second side I built. This is the first. So I'm going to turn it because I'm right-handed. I like to brick stitch this way so I can work on my first side. I'm going to pick up 2 size 8 seed beads and go underneath the first side that I built. And then come up through the second size 8 seed bead. So there's that, and then 1 bead now, just 1 8. And again, to get under the thread, it helps to go kind of under where the last bead was, because of that assist where it's already kind of lifting the thread a little bit for you. And then come up through it. Again, I picked up another 8. I'm going to go under the thread. So now you guys can see where it's just kind of the same process the whole way. Your tail will start to get in the way. I like to just pull it out of the way and hold it with my hand on the side. And go up. And then this is where you get to the bottom. You've got the bottom of the bead, the hole at the bottom, and you just kind of got to choose where you'd like to put your anchor. Think of it as like an anchor is what we're doing here. I can put it here, or I can put it here. Either way, it's going to overhang the hole, and that's exactly what I want it to do. And this, with these dimensions, 10mm bead with 8mm beads on it, it does tend to work out this way, where the side that makes sense is this side. But I have had some beads where it makes more sense to go over here with this one. But that, see, that's hanging right where I want it to. I don't know if I feel like I keep wandering. There we go. I want to stay there in the camera. Okay, so and another step, this is just an optional step, but if you like it, I wanted to share it because it helps me at the end with weaving in. I nudge that last bead I added, I nudge it up so I can put my tail through it. And I'm not threading a needle on it. You don't really need to, but if that helps, totally go for that. Okay, and then got that. And then I'm coming up through the bead. I just went under the thread bridge. Now I'm bringing up my working thread through that bead. And there you go. That's half done. And something I wanted to mention here is, we built a passive thread up here, but we didn't have to. Something you can think about for future ideas is if you just build 1 pass on your bead. So in that case, you might want to make 3 thread passes and don't build one up here. you can make like a fan just on the bottom of a bead. And think about the possibility of if you strung them. You made a bunch like that, you strung them, and they came along brick stitched all along it. That's on my list of things I want to do. I thought of it when I was working on this project, and then I would love to do it. So be on the lookout for that. That might have to be a future class maybe, but a strung version where we combine them all, you know. But so for this class, what we're doing is we're going to keep going all the way around it. I know this will happen to you guys when you're working, but especially on steps like this where they're kind of the same thing over and over, you start thinking about other ideas of things you might want to make next. And it does tend to get me in trouble. So I end up with a notebook full of all my dreams, things I want to do. And so all I'm doing is just going under the thread bridge and adding a bead to each step. So picking up one, go under. I'm going to go a little fast here. I just want to show joining it one more time. We're at 3:32. I think we're doing well. Okay, this is going to be my last bead. It's sitting kind of right over there, right over the top. And this was the first bead we added when we started. I'm going to go down through it. Here's that. And go under that thread bridge. This is the one that's under that bead. See, pop, pop, right into place. Come up through that same bead. And you're ready to start the next spot. And so now every time you look at a bead, you think, I can stitch on that. And it doesn't have to be a round bead. You can stitch on an oval shaped one too. And you can stitch on more than one bead at the same time. You can stack them. So yeah, so many things. But we're going to start row 2. So row 2 is going to be size 11 seed beads all the way around. And so this is where I'm going to switch ahead to a finished sample. But let me show you starting it. Because these are little size 11s. And I just picked up 2 of them. I'm going to go under the first thread bridge. So my thread's exiting from one of the, so what you'll end up seeing is the top beads, you'll probably have a couple. And this is the one on this side. Whatever side you're on, stitch that way. So if you're exiting from directly the center, then just either direction is fine. But if you're on one of the other sides, start on the side you're already kind of partway down. But it doesn't matter which direction you go from here. I pulled those 2 down through the first thread bridge and came up through the second size 11 bead. And I'm going to pick up another 11, just one, and go under the next thread bridge. You guys can see over the next 8 and the 8 after that. And coming up. And then coming up. And it's this step all the way around. I'll do a couple more. But that's pretty much it. And what I found is you'll be able to fit 2 size 11s on each thread bridge. And that'll be true for the whole journey around the bead. So just like that. And it's small and it takes a long time, but it's really pretty. So fast forward version. Let me grab another sample. Okay, so this is the tail thread here, tail. And this was the side we started on. So this and this are the same thing. And then this is my working side, worked all the way around. So just pretend we worked all the way around and we got to there. Okay, so what we need to do now is make a loop for our ear wire. And to do that, we're gonna need to pick up 4 size 11 seed beads. So I picked up 4 11s. And I go down through that first one. So you'll get, I wanted to mention this gap here. You're gonna get some variation here as well. And don't be afraid of the variation. If you end up with something that looks a little different, I'll show you my other sample. Here's one where my gap was just a little smaller. This one, the gap's pretty wide, and you'll see they both look really good. I'm getting a nice loop there. And ear wire is gonna fit great in it. So don't sweat it if your gap's a little different between one earring and the other. You're not gonna see it when you're done, and they're both gonna work. And I'm talking about the gap from this 11 to that one. So again, I picked up 4, and I'm going down through that first bead. And there's a loop. And so I need to turn. I want to go back through all of them again. So I'm going to go under the thread bridge that is below that 11, the one that I just went through. Coming through there. Flip it. Come back up through that bead. Okay. And now I'm just going to go through all of the beads again. So the 4 that we added that are going to become our loop. There they are. So that's twice through the loop. I want to go a 3rd time through there. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I went through that 11. I'm going to go under the thread bridge. And I'm going to flip it again, just so I can see what I'm doing. Go up through that same 11. And I'm going to go through all the beads again. Okay. All right, and that loop will start to become very round and cool looking as you do that. But if for some reason it's not rounded for you, there is a little trick I was going to share really quick. If you have any tweezers handy, or an awl, or even some round nose pliers, I've got tweezers here, which is what I used. You can round your loop with it if you're feeling like it doesn't look like it has a good shape to it. But this one kind of just automatically did what I wanted it to do. It's pretty good. Okay, so I'm going through the 11 below. And again, I'm going under that thread bridge because I want to come up through that bead again. Here's where having a size 12 beading needle pays off, because this is I believe this is my 4th pass through this 11. It's going to get tight. There we go. Okay. Loop's done. And now it's time for the really fun part, crystals. So we want to bring in these beautiful crystals here. And this is that small, I believe this is the 4mm size. It says in the handout everything that I've used from the strand wall. These are on the strand wall. So there's Really beautiful turquoise color. I love these crystals. They come in a lot of different colors, and so I get excited about them. I'm going to switch colors for my 11s so that they're really clear, like that it's a different row. I'm going to get rid of my yellows really quick. And what color did I think I went back to using red on my other samples, so I'll stick with that. So this is a size 11 light red. And the same thing here with brick stitch, we're going to pick up 2. And this time, remember from last step, we went under the first thread bridge, but we're 1 for 1 here. 11's going on top of 11's. So I'm going to go through the second thread bridge. And what you'll find as you go around is any variation that, you know, because when you start to build another circle on top of one that was before it, you're going to need a few extra beads to go around. We don't have to worry about that too much because we're going to be using the crystals to offset any kind of, you know, 1 for 1 with the thread bridge. I'll show you what I mean as we go. But I've got 2 here. And just a real quick tip, if you've got a bead here that's not laying flat, and you really want it to, 2 ways you can fix that. You can fix it now, the way I'm going to show you, or you can fix it at the end when you add the next layer. So whatever your preference is, if you just want to keep going, or if you want to fix it now. I'm going to fix it now. And this is a knit, by the way. You don't actually have to do this. It's just a little perfectionism. But I went through the bead, and I went under that first thread bridge. Because remember, I've noticed with brick stitch, when you skip a thread bridge, you end up with that first bead being slanted. So often I'll just go back, go under, and then come up through the second one. And you guys have probably seen that trick before. It's an out there trick, but I like it. Okay, so here's the crystal bead. And I'm going through the next thread bridge. So we went through 1 and 2. Here's the third one with a crystal. Okay, ignore this thread. That thread is from one of my other samples that snuck into the window there. There we go. Okay. Under the thread bridge, coming back up through the 4mm bead. Super cute. And it looks really big next to the other beads. And it continues to look that way until you add the next layer. So now I've added, oops, I didn't mean to pick up 2 there. Sorry about that. You only need to pick up 1 now, 1 size 11 bead. And the pattern we're going for is 2 11s, 1 crystal, 2 11s, 1 crystal, all the way around. So there's the crystal. There's 1 11. That's through the next thread bridge. I believe that's the 4th one. 5th thread bridge here. Okay, and then 1 more crystal here. I'm gonna stop for a second and show you guys where I'm at. And so you just keep going in that same pattern. And I'm going to untangle my other one. Keep going all the way around until you reach the other side. And so what you'll probably see is you'll have 6 crystals. Don't sweat it if you don't, but I think if you're using a 10mm bead and the same beads I'm using, that's the count you'll get. But you can make it work with other counts and other sizes of beads. So there's no reason to stick with exactly making it look like this. That's just what happened for this design. And the same process will work for any counts. Got a little knot here. So that's pretty much it. Now the next step is that we're just going to bring a layer of 11s around the outside. So it will Go from looking like that to like that. So let me get this knot out of here. I'm not sure how I got that there. Actually, here, I'll demo unpicking a knot. So if you get a knot like I have, a couple things you can do. The knot is trapping my needle. Otherwise, first thing I do is pull that needle off. But I'm picking it, trying to find the belly of it. With a little bit of determination here. If I can't get it to work, what I might do is trim. I've got quite a lot of thread. The good news is it happened kind of toward the top. So I am gonna, there we go. Okay. I'm gonna rethread it here. So if I would probably, if this was one that to finish this, I will have to add thread, but I can at least keep going. So now I need to add another color on top of here. Let me find, I was thinking turquoise on top of it, even though I've got turquoise crystals, but it kind of, because I pulled red up, I thought we'll pull the turquoise up too. Just kind of some fun with color. Let's see how that looks. And same process here. We're going to pick up 2 more size 11s. Oh, the color I'm using, the turquoise name on it, turquoise green. And so picking up 2, I'm going to go through the second thread bridge. What you'll notice when you're adding this layer, definitely you'll want to fix your first bead, because we won't be back here again to weave in. We're going to end over here. So on this side, you definitely want to fix it now. So that little sideways bead, I'm going to go back down through that bead under the thread bridge. That's in between those first two red 11s. Coming down through those, and then back up through my second bead. And what you're going to see happening with these is they're going to dance around all of those parts because you've got different heights. So with each one you add, they're going to kind of, I guess, just wave around the shape that you have here. When you get to the top of the crystal, go to the strand that's exiting it to build your next stitch on. And picking up another one. I'm only using one color, but you could use lots of different colors for this step if you wanted to. And that's the first time I've seen this color on top. I'm not sure, maybe even pulling in like a, I don't know, a yellow or an orange. When you get over the crystal, you get another spot where you can make a decision. Do you want to go in between the 2 red ones or onto the next bar over here? I'm showing you what I mean. So I can go under this thread bridge, or I can go over here. And in either case, I think would work. It might kind of bend this way when you add it, and then the next one straighten it out. Let's see. But yeah, you'll see variations start to happen at this step. And don't let it worry you. It's all gonna look great. Here we go. Yeah, see, that second one fixed it. It was kind of bent that way, and then the second one pulled it in this direction. So I'll do a few more. So we've got about a few minutes. I'll get as far as I can. And then I'll demo putting the ear wire on it. This is the part where you play some good music and you just keep stitching around. So this time I'm going to go up between the reds to see what happens. There's that, like that. Go this way. All right. And so you're probably wondering, what am I going to do with this tail? It's starting to get in the way. It's been hanging out here through this whole process, hanging out here from the size 8 seed bead here. And after I weave past it, I'm going to weave this in. You could also do it now if you wanted to. There's no real spot where you have to weave in. But if I add a layer above it, I have one more thing to weave into. So I'll go ahead and keep going. But there's so many patterns that you can come up with. I've seen on lots of inspiration, especially on like Instagram and stuff, of incredible things people have done with this technique of stitching onto beads. You know, with different size beads and different patterns and anything that you like, or you can visualize, try it and see how it looks. But you really can't go wrong. And it's so personalizable that you can really make it your own. But so yeah, this is the only remaining step, is just to keep going all the way around. And then when you get over here, we weave in. And so for weaving in, I want to show that really quick. I'm going to show it with the tail first. The process is the same for the working thread and for the tail. So threading my tail here. There we go. Exiting from that 8 is where I was. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go up through the rows of 11s that are above it. I just went through all of those beads. And so yeah, I'm just going to go back in under a thread bridge, come up. Let's see. What's that working thread there? So I went under the thread bridge and I turned it over, and coming back up through that same 11 and do the same thing again over here. I'm going to do this 3 times. And grabbing the thread bridge under that. Again, flip it. Thread bridge. Back up through that bead. And I'm going to go one more time because I want to fix that bead there. Okay, that's pretty much it. See, I just followed, I did like what you'll see called following your thread path. We say that a lot, where we're repeating passes of thread in the same places where they already are, just to kind of lock it in. I did that 4 times with my tail. So now I'm going to trim it. And if you have a burner, this is a great time for a burner. If you don't, just push down with the scissors. And that's it. And so we would finish the side and do that same process to weave in. And then if you're like me and you're like, I want that to be perfectly round, because it's got to be, right? Tweezers. And it's all set. Okay, so ear wires. Where are we? We're at 3:55. We're doing good. So I'm going to grab some ear wires really quick here. And for this one, I like the brass for these ones too. And I just realized I left these in my, I have a little case where I store my tools and I left them in there. So I got that. There's my chain nose pliers. And ear wires. And I mentioned at the beginning, but these came from this pack. Not only do you get 120 in there, but if you're serious about making earrings, these come in a pro pack where you get, I think it's either 10 or 12 of these, but it's a really great discount. And I also just learned a little while ago that if you are a business owner with a reseller permit, you can get tax-free purchases at Michael's. That's really handy. Because otherwise you're paying retail sales tax, right? Otherwise. I opened the ear wire. So there's no jump ring on this project. You could have a jump ring if you wanted, but you need to add 2 if you wanted this to hang. Because the way an ear wire works is you want it to be facing this way off of the ear wire. So if I just directly connect, I'm there. But if you wanted to do jump rings, you would need to add 2. But what I did on my samples is I just put the ear wire right through that loop. And then again, laterally closing that ear wire. I'm going to tighten it down a little bit. I'm happy with that. Looks good. And that's all set. And just pretend that we finished that side. and yeah, in an hour, here we go. So I'm going to switch my camera really quick so I can see you. You guys can see me. I'm going to find it. There we go. I'm back. And it got dark here. And earlier I had to close this window because the sun was so bright it was glaring our mat, but Seattle gray. So that was our earrings project, and I'm gonna put them back on because they're just really cool. If you have questions about this project, I know this was kind of an advanced one. I'm always happy to answer questions. I'm online. You can find me, Instagram or Facebook Messenger, and I helped people last week. I know last week was kind of a challenging one, so I'm always willing to answer any questions you guys have. Next week, we're going to be doing a really fun project, and it's right angle weave. And right angle weave was new to me last year. I actually finally taught myself right angle weave. I know, isn't that crazy? I was so into peyote and herringbone that I feel like I didn't need it, but it's super versatile because you can shape it. And so I think it's really worth teaching. I think it belongs in all the beater toolboxes, and I think it's fun. I actually really liked it too. It can be tricky, and I'm going to talk you guys through that beginner to beginner because I'm new to it as well. So it's something that I think will actually be really fun. And we get to play with pearls, so that's awesome. And then after that, we have another earrings class, and it's a kind of an unusual spin on herringbone. It is an odd count herringbone design. That's how we have a center point. And if you guys, from herringbone stitch, you need an even count. Well, I'm going to show you why you can do it odd count and how cool that is. So that's the next 2 classes. So I hope to see you guys there. And thank you so much for taking time to join me tonight. And I see Pat and Seema. Hi guys, hugs to you too. Have a good night.